Chapter 100, Monday, 4th of November. She was running blind through starless darkness, unable to see a thing in front of her other than the weak glow of the lights of the city several miles away. The ground felt soft and clangy, the mud sticking to the sole of her court shoes, making them heavier with each step and trying to suck them free of her feet. She heard a constant crunching that sounded like she was running through corn stubble. Then she stumbled and fell forward and something sharp glanced her cheek painfully. How far was Bryce behind her? In panic, she frantically scrambled back onto her feet and stumbled on. She was trying as best as she could to head well away from the cart truck and towards the orange glow of the lights of Brighton and home. Have to keep away from the track and the road, she thought. Run across the fields, keep going across the fields, keep going. Then she slammed into something sharp and unyielding and cried out in shock, feeling painful pricks in her knees, legs, stomach, and hands. A barbed wire fence, she realized. Overhead, she suddenly heard the thwack of an approaching helicopter. She looked up for an instant, gulping down air, and saw navigating lights high above her moving quickly through the sky. She began to climb over the fence, feeling gingerly with her hands for the barbs. Her skirts snagged and she jerked hard, hearing the fabric rip. Then she felt pain in her leg as it caught on something sharp. She stretched her left leg down to the ground on her far side and part of the fence collapsed. She fell sideways as she did. She heard a sharp hissing whoosh sound, felt a rush of air past her right ear, then heard a thud a short distance ahead, like a rock being thrown, or a missile of some kind. A chill rippled through her as she remembered something about Bryce. One of his hobbies was crossbow shooting. He'd won prizes, he told her, and one of his many unfulfilled promises to her had been to give her lessons. Was he shooting at her now? From somewhere, maybe a movie she had seen. She remembered that it was harder to hit a zigzagging target. That made sense. She had to run on, changing direction every few paces. A short way ahead, she saw headlights growing brighter. She heard the roar of a car driving past, the lights passing in front of her, and then she saw the red glow of taillights of the main road. She realized. She veered to the right, stumbled on so that she would be parallel to it. Not reaching it, Bryce had brought her in a van, and that could not get across the field, especially not through a barbed wire fence. But he could chase her along the road. Shit. She stumbled on, the mud heavier, her pace slowing despite her effort as her shoes became as heavy as lead. Then she heard the thwack of the helicopter returning, sounding louder, lower. An instant later, she was illuminated for a brief second by a blinding pool of light. Go away, she screamed, waving arms, gesticulating angrily. Go away, you idiots. The light swept over her, then a moment lit up the ground ahead of her, a field full of short green crop, some kind of cattle field she could see. Then the light swept around in a brilliant, dazzling arc and came back towards her, the thwack, almost deafeningly loud, and suddenly she was lit up again like a diva on a stage. Get away, you fucking idiots, she screamed. Then her foot caught something, a rabbit hole, twisting, agonizing, and she fell flat on her face again. As she scrambled to her feet, panting and crying in terror, there was another thud right by her face, and now in the light she could see the feathered steel crossbow bolt sticking out of the earth. She turned and looked over her shoulder and saw two distant bright white headlights beam and what looked like the shadow of a figure standing between them, legs apart. She stood still for a moment, watching. Mercifully, the helicopter moved away, leaving her back in darkness. She watched the beam of its searchlight moving across the field, illuminating briefly the fence she had clambered over. Then it was right over the white van, brilliantly illuminating it, and the figure in front of her holding something, Bryce holding his crossbow. She buried her face against the mud, bracing herself, waiting. It was harder to hit a target lying flat. She heard that or read that somewhere. An instant later, she heard another thud over to her right. Oh, Jesus, what the hell was the helicopter doing? And she saw it circling above the white van. She stumbled on, her chest hurting, a painful stitch in her side. One of her shoes came off, but she didn't care. She broke into a sprint, stifling a scream of pain as her stocking right foot struck something hard and sharp. She kept on going, then stopped dead again as she struck another fence. No, please, no, ignoring the barb, she scrambled over it, ran on a few paces, then her legs banged, agonizing into something solid metallic, and she fell forward, her arms plunging into icy, foul-smelling water, her chin striking metal, a cattle trough. She realized. She looked back over her shoulder and saw the helicopter still hovering in the same place in front of farm buildings. Above the white van, suddenly it made a sharp movement to the right and banked steeply, its beam travelling up the building's walls. Then it banked even more steeply, and despite the danger she watched, mesmerized for an instant as it started to climb, then suddenly began to drop almost on its side now, plunging sideways. Not right. Surely not right. No, please, God, no, she pleaded silently. It was dropping faster, plunging sideways towards the ground. She stared at the gap between the helicopter and the ground reduced as if she was watching something unraveling in army. Then suddenly she heard a deep, hollow metallic bang. Seconds later, the entire helicopter erupted into a massive ball of flame. This could not be happening. It could not be. She was shaking. This could not be happening. Please, no, no. In the halo of the flame, she could see dense black smoke billowing before being swallowed into the darkness of the night. She stood rooted to the spot in utter numb horror, feeling as if her innards had been scooped out. No one ran from the wreckage. Cries. What the hell had happened? But she knew exactly what must have happened. Then she saw a powerful flashlight beam glinting towards her, tears streaming down her face. She turned and ran painfully on, gulping down air, and after a few paces she lost her left shoe also, but she was beyond caring. All she could see was the image of the plunging helicopter, the fireball. Light rain was starting to fall, cooling her face. She stumbled on her distant sirens, her face cold, almost numb, scorching through the mud. Every few paces she yelped in pain as one or the other struck something sharp and hard. Then in the distance, ahead to her left, she saw strobing blue lights getting closer, an entire convoy of them hurtling towards down the road, which a good half a mile away, a succession of police cars. She altered her course for a wild, crazy instant, thinking she might be able to get there before they passed and flag them down. Then the ground disappeared beneath her. With a yelp of fear, she fell several feet into a wet ditch, her face slamming into the bank. She closed her eyes for a moment, wondering how much more she could take. But she had to go on. She knew she could not let that brute win. She felt a sudden rage at him. How dare he, the bastard? How dare he do all that he had done? How dare he set fire to her parents' house, her car? And suddenly she was not afraid anymore. She was just angry, driven by fury. She would get this bastard, pay him back somehow. Oh yes, he would pay for this. The rain was hardening. She didn't care. She was in the middle of nowhere, several miles from the city, but she didn't care. She heard the sirens well past, but she didn't care. You bastard. She hauled herself up the far side of the ditch. If only she had a phone, she thought she would get some small amount of light from that, but it was back in the van somewhere. At least the police were on their way. They would get him, and then he'd spend a few years in prison before being released to do what? Come after her again or find someone else to abuse and terrorize. She ran on, the rain hardening with every step she took, heading towards the main road now. She would flag down a police car when she got there. Shit, fuck. She had run into a gorse bush. Almost beyond feeling pain now, she backed away, then walked slowly forward. Only a short distance in front of her now, she saw headlights moving from left to right. Another car went past, then another, then two cars in close succession heading in the opposite direction towards the helicopter. A few minutes later, headlights were approaching very close now. In the beam, she could see a rail and post fence. Close to exhaustion, she clambered over it. Then she stood still in the darkness, waiting. After what seemed like an eternity, she heard the roar of a motorcycle, saw the beam of light, and watched it hurtle past at high speed. Over to her left, she could see the red glow of the burning helicopter. She was barely aware of the rain anymore, nor of her isolation. She just felt a burning deep inside her, a burning rage and helplessness. She was shivering with cold. Then she saw headlights, a large car coming along slowly. When it was close enough for her to be sure it was not a white van, she hobbled out in front of it, her arms raised in the air. For an instant she thought he was going to run her over. Then to relief it indicated left and slowed to a halt. There was a large elderly joker with an equally elderly man behind the wheel. She ran right round to the passenger side and the window lowered. He peered at her, looking clearly a little flushed. "You're right, my dear." She burst into tears, sobbing. "Just could you take me to the police?" He squinted at her. He could see his face in the green glow of the instruments, ruddy and flaccid. He was wearing a tie with cross golf clubs on it and a checkered shirt. "Well, to be honest with you," he slurred, "I was rather hoping to avoid them." He squinted again. "Your face is bleeding. Have you been attacked?" She burst into tears again. He leaned over and opened the door for her. She climbed in and pulled it shut, grateful for the warmth inside the car, inhaling the comforting smell of old leather, as well as the smell of booze. "I've been kidnapped," she burst up, "just escaped. Someone's having a bonfire over there," he replied, jerking his thumb towards the rear window, not registering what she had said. "It's a helicopter that crashed," she said, pulling down the sunrise and peering the mirror. In its weak light, she could see her face clearly. It was streaked with mud and blood. "Never fancied one myself," he said. I'm a fixed wing man, bloody blood helicopters. Engine packs up in those. You've got 1.5 seconds to react or you're toast, roast toast. You're a pilot, are you? No, she said, casting an anxious glance behind her. Was Bryce somewhere out there coming for her? She wished the man could drive on quickly. Could you take me to the project and just drop me anywhere? You need to go to the hospital? Sure, hospital would be good. Anywhere but here right now, she thought, and would be good. Even being driven by drunk right now would be good. Chapter 101. Monday, 4th of November. Roy Grace seated in the workstation in MIR1 listened to the voice of Inspector Andy Keel down the phone in despair. Gone down the helicopter. What the hell happened, Andy? We don't know yet, sir. We don't know yet, sir. We have no emergency services at the scene now. We do know the helicopter has picked up through their infrared camera and that a man with a crossbow was at that location. Silver has sent armed response units there as well as covert response support. What about the crew? Information I have is that it's a fireball. Doesn't sound like there was any survivors. Would there have been a crew of 3? Yes. One of them a police officer? That's correct, Roy. God, he balled his fist and knocked his knuckles together. 2 officers killed on this operation. If he hadn't gone on honeymoon, Maybella would have been. If he hadn't gone on honeymoon, Maybella would not have been there where she was at that time. If he hadn't come back, maybe things would have been different in the helicopter, he wondered. He put down the receiver and buried his face in his hands, thinking, what happened? Glenn Branston asked. Shit happened, he replied. He picked the receiver back up and called Gold. Superintendent Jackson, I'm on my way to the crash site to ensure we don't lose evidence. So, as this is a crime scene, can you give me the exact location? Also, is there any other helicopter attending? I can try, but NPS 15 is really our only one, Gold said. Every unit we have is looking for Red Westwood. We need to find her urgently. I'm organising roadblocks with at least 10 more vehicles making their way from all over the county. I want every exit into the main roads from the dike, man, and to have them stop and search every vehicle approaching from the dike. And further afield, I want a roadblock ring of steel around the whole city. Silver is implementing this strategy. Grace agreed and updated him on what his own team were doing. No one in Brighton and Hove Police is to go off duty tonight, either in uniform nor CID, Gold continued. I'll send the instructions straight out. Grace put the phone down. Branson said, did I hear right? The helicopter? You did. NPS 15's gone down the scene. Shit. 2 minutes later, ignoring his misgivings about his colleagues driving, Roy Grace sat cradled his phone in the passenger seat of the unmarked Ford estate car and tightened his seatbelt as Glenn Branson drove them down the ramp at the front entrance of Success House. Switching on the blue lights and siren, and the DI pulled straight out in front of the bus, narrowly missing being hit by a car coming the other way, and accelerated the Ford up the hill. What information do we have on this Roy? He said, nonchalantly hurling over the roundabout, almost under the wheel of a truck that had right away. Branson never seemed to understand that driving on blues and twos did not grant you automatic right away. It was a request for that, no more. Grace, holding his breath, took a moment to reply as they hurtled down the slip road and straight out into the heavy traffic on the A27 dual carriageway. The wipers clouding away the heavy rain. The chopper crew reported 2 people, one stationary, the other running away. Sounds like Bryce Lauren and Westwood. They reported that he appeared to be shooting at her. Grace's phone rang. Then he heard the voice of the Ops 1 controller chief. I've just listened to the recording from NPAS 15. The sergeant on board is saying that the man on the ground is pointing a weapon at them. Then she's screaming that the pilot's been shot. Then it goes silent. Christ, who's the sergeant on board? Amanda Morrison. Amanda Morrison, I don't know what happened to her and anyone else on board. I don't have any information yet. I'll keep you updated. We'll be there in 5. Grace nearly added with luck as he gripped the grab handle. Branson came off the A27 and slewed the car into the roundabout at the top of the hill. Grace felt the tails slide out and for a moment thought they were going to spin. He gave Glenn Branson a nervous look. Relax, old timer, he said, seesawing the steering wheel one away from the other as the car fishtailed twice, then somehow seemingly defied the laws of physics again over a second roundabout onto the dark, narrow road that led towards the Dyke Golf Clubs. Flash of blue light streaked the hedgerows. They hurtled past a traveller's encampment to their right. Headlights were coming towards them on full beam, dazzling them. Glenn flashed his lights back twice. Bloody idiot, he said. Almost at the last moment, the lights of the oncoming car dimmed. Grace peered as they passed, checking it wasn't a white van, but it was a large saloon, an old jag. Perhaps he stared again and could see a red glow like a bonfire in the distance. He had a knot in his gullet, praying silent that the crew were all right, but knowing in his heart that a helicopter coming down was never going to be good news. Then his phone rang. He answered, and his heart sang him further. It was his new boss, Assistant Chief Constable Costume Pugh. He was not a happy man. What the hell's going on, Roy? My sentiments exactly, sir, he replied, mirroring his acidity. Chapter 102, Monday, 4th of November. Red saw the blue flashing lights approaching, then hurtled past. Played a blinder today, the old man said, and birdied the 18th. How's that for a finish? Damn near got an eagle on the 12th. Went into the hole and damn well rolled out. You're a golfer? He asked again. She shook her head. Read about the terrible thing at Hayward's Heath last week before. That was my boyfriend, she replied, staring at the approaching roundabout and the welcoming street lights of the city, only a couple of 100 yards ahead of them. She was not sure that her driver, who was looking more at her than at the road, had noticed yet, but she felt strangely detached, not caring if they had a wipeout smash, or even at that moment everything was surreal, as if she were a passive observer in a bad dream. He braked sharply at the last possible moment, throwing her forward against the seatbelt, jolting her awake, and her senses. Sorry about that, I don't remember that being there. Not exactly there. His face furrowed into a frown. You play at Hayward's Heath? He asked, navigating the roundabout uncertainly. She turned and looked over her shoulder, and to her relief the road behind was in darkness. I'm not a golfer, she replied, thinking hard about what she should do. Go to the hospital where she was safe. John Street Police Station. Would that still be open at this hour? She could not be sure. Hadn't there been stuff in the papers about all the police cuts and many stations either closing or cutting down their hours? Where would Bryce be expecting her to go? As the thoughts began to clarify, she suddenly realised that he would have the keys to her flat, which were in her handbag. Would he go to the flat? Could he get there before him and get the locks changed? She suddenly felt leadenly tired, yet strangely alert at the same time. If she went to the Royal Success Country Hospital, she could find herself sitting in the accident emergency department for several hours. But if a drunk rescuer dropped her at John Street Police Station, which he was clearly reluctant to do at any event, and found it close, what then, without any money for a taxi home? She wanted to phone Rob, but she couldn't remember his number. She had on speed dial for so long she never looked at it. Shit. They were heading down Doak Road Avenue, one of the smartest streets in the city. I live just over there, he pointed at a huge mansion behind what iron-gate slung to a halt. Would you like to go? She thought for a moment and knew she should go to the police, but the only place she could feel safe at the moment was in a safe room in the flat, and that's where she needed to go. She wanted to shower, get into the fresh clothes and get safe. She noticed a glow to her right and saw an iPhone nestling in charge code. Could have borrowed your phone for a second? For damn son interest anything. She picked it up and saw it had no security code. She went to Google App and said Locksmith in Brighton. 15 minutes, she thanked her gallant, if somewhat inebriated white knight, giving him a peck on the cheek, and climbed out of the Jaguar, which he pulled out in front of her building. Sure you're okay? She nodded. I can never thank you enough. Anytime you fancy a round of golf, no pressure. I'll remember that. He raised his pinky window. Got to go get home now. To she who must be obeyed. She stood in the rain, looking around her warily as the Jaguar drove up Westbourne Terrace, its tail lights fading and blurring. No sign of any white van. She glanced at her watch. 7:58 p.m. She felt conspicuous. Standing there, a lorry rattled along the Kingsway, followed by a number of cars, their tires sluicing across the wet tarmac. Then a noisy motorcycle. She was shaking. She realised from her ordeal, from the sickening image of the crashing and burning helicopter, and from the icy wind blowing straight off the channel, just a couple of 100 yards south of her. Her ankle hurt like hell, and her left hand and her cheek. Her eyes darted in all directions. Her brain darted in all directions too, thinking, where was Bryce? Why hadn't she had her rescuer drive her to Raquel Evans' house or just phone the police? Why had she come back here? She knew the reason, because the bastard had made her a victim. A bedraggled, cut and bleeding victim all the time she was in this state he had won. She wanted to clean herself up, have a bath, dress her room, put her fresh clothes, be ready for battle. I'm coming for you now, you bastard. Where the hell was the locksmith? A car was driving down Westbourne Terrace. Her hopes rose. that was a locksmith. Then she saw the little Nissan micropass with an elderly-looking man at the wheel. The woman who would answer the locksmith phone said he will be there in 15 minutes. Still 5 to go yet. Please come quickly. In the distance she heard a siren, then he faded away. She looked around in all directions, staring at the shadows, convinced for an instant that she saw one move. She felt a dry prick of anxiety in front, watched the shadow, watched shivering, ready to break into a run. Then she heard a vehicle approaching, swinging into the westbound terrace from the seafront, the lights of a tall, dark man dazzling her fleetingly. An instant later she could read the words emblazoned above the windscreen, 24-hour lockup. She stepped forward and raised a hand in the air, and he pulled over beside her, a tall Warriorman with a Mohican haircut and a ring through his button, lowered his window. Peter, Mrs. Westwood, he asked. She could see him frowning at her victim's appearance. He looked strong and tough enough to deal with anyone who crossed him. Yes, she said, shooting a glance at the shadow. She thought her moved, but now in the beam of the headlight she could see nothing, just the side entrance to house and some bins. You're locked out, yes, but I need to replace the locks, please. The landlady on the phone said you could do that, right? Yes, I can, but I'll need some proof it's your property. I have stuff in the flat I can show you when we get inside. I can't do that. I need proof first, I'm afraid. What ID do you have on you? None. The thing is, I'm not allowed to open up any property without knowing I have consent from the owner. He was staring at her more closely now. I've just been abducted, kidnapped by my ex. He's got my handbag with everything, you know. I need to change the locks before he... Please help me. She could see through her blurred eyes that he was wavering. The thing is, I need to know it's your property, lady. It's more than my job's worth. Come on, you don't look like a job's worth to me. You must have this all the time. I can't believe that everyone who gets locked out of the home has ID with them, surely. She turned, wiping away her tears, and stared warily around, looking back at where she thought she had seen the shadow moving, but the street was deserted. Please, help me, please. Is there one of your neighbours who will vouch for you? He asked, more friendly now. She shook her head. I haven't been here very long, you see. She hesitated, unsure whether to tell him, but she couldn't see an option. There is, well, the thing is, I've been stalked by my ex. The police, this is a police safe house. The sanctuary scheme arranged this for me. Okay, we could phone the police and have someone come down. I don't have my phone. He kidnapped me and I escaped. He raised her arms. Look at me, look at the state I'm in. I've just escaped. I've run over fields in the dark. He shot down a police helicopter. Some kind stranger gave me a lift here. There's an officer who looks after PC Spofford at Brighton Police Station, John Street. You look frozen, he said. Tell you what, jump in and I'll phone him and put you on. She climbed gratefully into the dry warmth of the fan. There was a strong reek of tobacco. As she pulled the door shut, she said, what's your name? Mel Oxley, he said. Do you have a ciggy I could bomb, Mel? How do you know I smoke? I can smell it on you. Mel Oxley grinned. I've only got roll-ups. A roll-up would be fine. He picked up the phone from the dashboard cradle. Do you know PC's Spofford number? Spofford. Just dial 999 and ask for police. That's what I've been told to do in an emergency. He dialed, put the phone on loudspeaker and jammed it back in the cradle. Moments later, an operator said, emergency service required police. He then rubbed in his pocket and produced a tobacco pouch and a pack of his cigarette papers. Success police, a stern male voice answered. Moments later, may I have your name and number, please? I have a distressed lady with me who needs to speak urgently to PC Stanford. Spofford, we corrected him. I'm sorry, that should be PC Spofford. What is the lady's name? Redney thought. My name's Red Westwood. There was a brief silence. She heard the horrible cue and then the change in the tone of her eyes. I'll try reaching for you, Miss Westwood. We've been looking for you. Are you safe now? Yes, she began crying again. Can you give me your location? I'm outside my flat. She gave him the address. I've just been kidnapped and escaped, but I can't get inside because I don't have my keys. I'll try to contact PC Spofford, but in the meantime, I'll have a car with you within a few minutes. Are you safe for the moment? She looked at the locksmith, who was engrossed in laying a filter at one of the brown cigarettes paper. Yes, thank you, I am. She appeared nervously through the window. Can I contact you by this number? He was sounding kindly now, so kindly that her tears worsened. Yes, she said, and sniffled. If it makes you more comfortable, I'll stay on the line until someone is with you. Thank you, she said. Thank you very much. I'm in the van marked with the locksmith's name. She looked at her companion. 24-hour lockup. He said clearly into phone. We're parked on Westbound Terrace just to the north of the Kingsway. With his large grubby hands, he laid thick golden strands of tobacco along the length of the paper, added more to it, then brought up to his lips, licking along the length, and rolled it. Then he handed the thin, slightly creased, but well-formed tube to her. Get me into trouble smoking in the workplace, he grinned, then held up the flame of a plastic lighter. She inhaled the sweet smoke gratefully. As she did so, she was unaware of what she assumed was an unmarked police car pulling up alongside. Suddenly she felt better. safer. She opened the door and jumped into the road. 2 uniformed police came down the car. One was a sturdy built woman in her late 20s with brown curly hair and a friendly face. The other was a man in his 40s, tall and thin, holding a torch. Miss West went down and said, looking at her sympathetically. Red nodded. PC Halliday and PC Roberts were on the neighbourhood team with PC Officer, so we know all about you. You look injured. Do you need to go to hospital? I'm okay, Red said, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. Lou pressed against each of her eyes in turn to stop the stinging. She was wearing a cigarette in her left hand. Have you just been near the dike? Yeah, Red nodded. We need to get you to hospital. No, I'm okay. I ran into a barbed wire fence, just cut myself a bit. I want to get into my flat. I have to get it cleaned. What's happened to the helicopter? I saw it on fire. The 2 officers got a shot against each other. We don't have any information yet, PC Roberts said. We were just down the road when we got the call to come here. Thank you, Red said. Were you with Bryce Lauren? She nodded. I went to show up a prospective client around a property at lunchtime. The next thing I knew, I was tied up in the back of a van being driven by Bryce. We went into some kind of car park for I don't know how long, then out to the dike. I managed to escape. He was shooting at me with a crossbow. I think I was able to get to the road and flag down a car. The driver kindly dropped me here. Why didn't you call us then? Red began crying again. I don't know. I just wanted to get home. I had no phone or money. I was just terrified. Not thinking straight, but I realised I don't have my keys or anything. She jerked her finger in the van. And he won't open the door for me without ID. Okay, we'll speak to him. PC Holiday said, but we really need to take you to the victim suite where you can be made comfortable, receive medical attention, and give you an opportunity to provide an account of what's happened. Red replied, I know, but I'm not going anywhere right now. I want to go into my flat. She burst into tears. 2 minutes later, the 4 of them headed towards the front door of Red's building, the locksmith carrying a metal toolbox. Thanks for listening.